You wake up one day, and suddenly, you don't recognize yourself. Not in the mirror, not in your thoughts, not in the choices you make. The world has had its way with you, little by little, day by day. They chipped away at your edges, sanded down your roughness, made you agreeable. How nice, how civilized. You fit right in, don't you? A perfect little cog in their big, beautiful machine. But tell me, do you ever wonder, who was it that you used to be? Before they dressed you up, straightened your spine, and taught you to smile on command? Because I have a feeling he's still in there. And oh, wouldn't it be fun to bring him back? You see, they don't want you to remember. It's not convenient. A man who remembers is dangerous. A man who remembers, he doesn't play nice. He doesn't obey. He doesn't apologize for the space he takes up, the noise he makes, the fire in his gut. No, that man, he's a problem. So they fed you stories about being good, about falling in line, about keeping the peace, and you swallowed them down, didn't you? Like a good little pawn. But here's the thing. What if peace is just another word for submission? What if obedience is just the art of dying slowly? I have a secret, a delicious little truth they don't want you to hear. Are you ready? You were never meant to be tame. No. You were meant to be feral, to sink your teeth into life, to take what's yours, to let your instincts drive. But oh, they made you feel guilty for it, didn't they? Told you it was wrong to want, wrong to take, wrong to be anything other than a well-behaved ghost, drifting through a world that was never meant to contain you. And you, poor lost little thing, you believed them. But I see you. I see what's been buried under all that politeness, all that shame. I see the man who once had fire in his eyes, who walked with purpose, who didn't hesitate. Where is he? Locked away, buried under years of playing along. Let me guess. Every now and then, he wakes up, doesn't he? Scratches at the walls of his cage. You feel it, don't you? That itch, that whisper, a reminder. Oh, but they told you to ignore him. Be better, they said. Be reasonable. What a joke. Reasonable men are just broken men who learn to smile through their chains. But you don't have to be reasonable. No, you can be something far more terrifying. You can be free. But freedom has a cost. A steep, bloody, beautiful cost. It means unlearning everything they taught you, breaking every rule they stuffed down your throat. It means walking away from their approval, their pats on the head, their meaningless little gold stars. And oh, that frightens you, doesn't it? Because you've spent so long seeking permission, you forgot what it felt like to just take. But let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a man who woke up. He remembered who he was, what he wanted, what he was owed. And when he walked out that door, he did not ask. He did not wait. He did not beg. He took. And do you know what happened next? The world moved for him. Because that's how it works, my friend. The world doesn't belong to those who wait for it to be kind. It belongs to those who reach out and rip it apart. So, I ask you again, do you remember who you are? Not the version they made you into. Not the obedient little shell of a man, but the real you. The one who laughed in the face of rules. The one who felt alive in the chaos. The one who didn't need permission to exist. Find him. Wake him up. Because the longer you wait, the more you forget. And one day, you'll be gone for good. Ah, identity. Such a fragile thing, isn't it? You think you know who you are, until the world decides otherwise. Until they dress you up, hand you a script, and shove you onto the stage. You don't even notice it happening. At first, it's just a little adjustment, a tiny compromise. Smile here, nod there, laugh at the right moments, lower your voice when you speak. Don't be too much. And before you know it, you've become someone else, a stranger in your own skin. But it's funny, really, because if I asked you, who were you before the world told you who to be? You'd hesitate. You'd stammer. Because the truth is, you don't remember. Not really. You've been playing their little game for so long, you forgot you were ever anything else. And oh, they made sure of it, didn't they? Society, your parents, your teachers, your so-called friends. Every single one of them had a hand in shaping you, molding you, trimming you down, until you fit neatly into their little box. Because a man who knows himself, he's dangerous. He can't be controlled, manipulated, guilt-tripped into submission. No, no, no. They needed you tame. They needed you to forget. So they covered you in layers, expectations, obligations, disappointments. They handed you a mask and said, wear this. This is who you are now. And you did as you were told, because it was easier, because fighting back felt like drowning. But now something's changed, hasn't it? There's a whisper, a scratch at the back of your mind, a voice you haven't heard in a long time. And it's asking, who are you really? You see, there's a reason they don't want you asking that question. Because if you dig deep enough, if you pull at the right threads, everything starts to unravel. You start seeing the cracks in the facade. You realize that all the things they told you to be, kind, patient, obedient, small, they weren't for your benefit. They were for theirs. They needed you to doubt yourself, so you wouldn't challenge them. They needed you afraid, so you wouldn't fight back. And they needed you busy. Oh, so busy. Chasing validation, chasing approval, chasing anything but your true self. Because if you ever stopped, if you ever looked inward, you'd see the truth. You'd see how much they've taken from you, how much you've lost. But don't worry, there's a way back, a way to remember. It's not easy. No, 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 nothing worth having ever is. It requires breaking things, burning things, watching everything you once believed in crumble to ash. It means questioning every rule, every expectation, every voice that ever told you who you were supposed to be. Because let's be honest, what have those voices ever done for you? Have they made you strong? Have they made you free? Or have they just trapped you further, wrapping chains around your mind and calling it a safety net? Unlearning isn't gentle. It's not peaceful. It's a war, a bloody, brutal war against every lie you've ever swallowed, every mask you've ever worn, every version of yourself you've had to kill just to make other people comfortable. And most people, they don't have the stomach for it. They'd rather live in the illusion. They'd rather stay in their little cages, pretending they're free. But you're not most people. That whisper inside you, it's not going away. It's getting louder. And the only question left is, do you have the nerve to listen? Because the truth is, the real you isn't gone. No, no, no. He's just buried. Beneath the guilt, beneath the fear, beneath every moment of shame they made you feel for wanting more, for demanding more, for being more. And if you want him back, you're going to have to dig through the wreckage of who they told you to be. Tear through the polite smiles, the forced apologies, the suffocating guilt. Rip it all apart until there's nothing left but you. The raw, unfiltered, unbreakable you. And when you find him, oh my friend, the world will not be ready. Because a man who remembers who he is, he doesn't ask permission. He doesn't wait his turn. He doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. No, no, no. He takes, he speaks, he moves. And the world moves with him. Because that's the secret they never wanted you to figure out. Power doesn't belong to those who follow the rules. It belongs to those who rewrite them. So I ask you again, do you remember who you are? Not the puppet, not the role they handed you, but you, the one who laughs in the face of rules, the one who lives on the edge of chaos, the one who doesn't just survive, but thrives in the wreckage of everything they told him to be. He's in there. He always has been. And he's waiting for you to wake up, waiting for you to let him out. They'll tell you identity is set in stone, that once you've changed, there's no going back, that the man you used to be is gone, wiped clean by time, by circumstance, by failure. But that's the lie they want you to believe, isn't it? Because the truth is so much more uncomfortable. Your brain, it's nothing but a machine of repetition, a system of wiring and rewiring, adapting to whatever you feed it, whatever you repeat. That means every mask you wear, every role you play, every compromise you make, it all sticks. It all buries you deeper under the weight of who you're pretending to be. But buried is not the same as dead. No, no, no. That fire inside you, it's still there, hidden beneath routines, dulled by habits, numbed by years of playing along. But all it takes, all it's ever taken, is a spark. You see, your mind doesn't care whether you're becoming stronger or weaker, sharper or duller, freer or more imprisoned. It just follows orders. The problem, you haven't been the one giving them. Every thought, every behavior, it carves a groove, deeper and deeper, until it becomes automatic. You don't even question it anymore. Wake up, go to work, swallow your words, nod at the right times, keep your head down, behave, over and over and over again, until it feels natural, until it feels like you. But that's the trick, isn't it? It's not you. It's just a script, drilled into your skull by repetition. You think you've lost yourself, but really, you've just been programmed. But here's where it gets interesting. If your mind can be wired, it can be rewired. If habits can shape you, they can also break you free. But unlearning, that's a messy process. It's not a neat, gentle peeling away of layers. It's a ripping, a violent tearing down of every lie you've built your identity around. And most people, they don't have the stomach for it. They'd rather keep playing the part, keep nodding along, keep drowning in the comfort of familiarity. Because that's what this really is. Comfort, even misery, even self-betrayal, even the slow, suffocating death of who you really are. It's comfortable when you've done it long enough. And that is why most men never wake up. They don't even realize they're sleeping. But you're different, aren't you? You feel it. That unease, that itch, that nagging little voice whispering that something is off. That's your mind rebelling against its programming. That's the real you, the forgotten you, pounding on the walls of his prison. He's still there, underneath the routines, underneath the hesitation, underneath the years of shrinking yourself to fit into places you were never meant to belong. And the only thing standing between you and him is one question. Are you willing to break yourself apart to find him again? Most won't. Most can't, because unlearning who they've become means confronting why they became it in the first place. And that's a truth most men would rather die than face. Because when you peel back the layers, when you strip away the excuses, what you find isn't some tragic accident. It's a choice you made again and again to betray yourself, to ignore the signs, to silence the voice that told you, this isn't you. You let the world tell you who to be, and worse, you believed it. But belief? Oh, belief is a flimsy little thing, isn't it? It bends, it breaks, it shatters under the right pressure. And right now, that's exactly what you need. Pressure. To crack the illusion, to break the trance, to wake yourself up. And that starts with a single act of defiance, a disruption in the pattern, a refusal to go through the motions like a good little puppet. One moment of remembering, and then another, and another, until the old wiring snaps, until the old self awakens, until the real you steps forward, raw, untamed, unbreakable. Because that's the secret, my friend. You were never weak. You were never meant to play small, to shrink, to apologize for your own existence. No, no, no. You were built for more, but they conditioned it out of you. They buried you under doubt, under fear, under years of making you believe that power, confidence, and self-respect were dangerous. And maybe they were, for them. Because a man who remembers who he is, he's not easy to control. He doesn't ask for what's his. He takes it. He doesn't follow rules. He rewrites them. So tell me, what happens when you remember? When you start stripping away every artificial layer they've forced on you? When you start reclaiming the instincts, the drive, the fire that was stolen from you? I'll tell you what happens. The world shakes because they were counting on you staying asleep. They built their system on your obedience. And when you break free, oh my friend, you don't just wake up, you become unstoppable. Well, the world wasn't always like this. There was a time when men weren't molded like clay, shaped by opinions, softened by expectations. There was a time when power wasn't a dirty word, when strength wasn't something to be apologized for. Look back far enough, and you'll find them. Warriors, kings, sages, men who lived and died by codes that would seem alien today. They didn't second-guess themselves. They didn't seek permission. They were. They embodied something greater than themselves, archetypes that gave them purpose, clarity, and an unshakable sense of identity. But that connection, that primal understanding, it has been lost, buried beneath generations of conditioning that told you to be safe, quiet, agreeable. And yet, deep in your bones, you can feel it, the whisper of something ancient, something untamed, something yours. Every great man throughout history carried an archetype within him. Some were warriors, forged in blood, defined by discipline, hardened by the pursuit of mastery. They understood that suffering was the price of power, that control over the body was control over the mind. They didn't hesitate. They didn't flinch. They moved forward while others faltered, knowing that victory belongs to the ones who refuse to break. And you have that within you. A fire that was meant to be stoked, a strength that was meant to be used. But instead, you were told to repress it, to sit still, to wait, to be patient. Patience was never meant to be a cage, yet here you are, trapped inside it, waiting for a permission that will never come. Others were kings, men who built empires not just from stone, but from will. Men who did not beg for favor, but demanded respect through the sheer force of their presence. Kings understood something most men have forgotten: that power is not given, it is taken. That the world does not reward those who hesitate, only those who decide. A king does not lower his eyes in the presence of those who question him. A king does not make himself small to make others comfortable. A king knows who he is. And yet, most men today, they walk as shadows of what they could be, afraid to claim what is already theirs. They have forgotten the simple truth that the mind shapes reality, that a man who commands himself commands everything around him. Then there were the sages, the seekers of truth, the men who understood that wisdom was the sharpest weapon of all. They were the ones who saw beyond illusion, who rejected the falsehoods of their time, who recognized that real freedom comes from knowing oneself. A sage does not allow himself to be blinded by fear, distracted by pleasure, or controlled by his past. He watches, he listens, and when he speaks, the world stops to hear. But wisdom is earned, not gifted. It requires solitude, introspection, a willingness to break apart and rebuild from nothing. Most will never go through that process because it is easier to remain asleep, to be entertained, to be kept distracted. But those who seek, those who wake up, they become something else entirely, something the world can neither predict nor control. These aren't just stories. These aren't just ideals from a time long forgotten. These are blueprints, paths carved by those who refuse to be ordinary. And if you have the mind to listen, the will to unlearn, you can choose. You can decide what lives within you, what awakens when you strip away the layers of conditioning that have suffocated you. Do you carry the heart of a warrior, ready to embrace struggle as the fuel for your ascent? Do you embody the presence of a king, unshaken by the world's attempts to make you kneel? Do you have the mind of a sage, seeking truth where others accept lies? They stripped you of these choices by convincing you that power is wrong. The confidence is arrogance. The clarity is coldness. They wanted you uncertain, doubtful, apologetic. Because a man who knows what he is, he cannot be led, he cannot be bought, he cannot be controlled. They buried your strength beneath layers of guilt, taught you to suppress it until you became unrecognizable even to yourself. And yet, even after all these years, you can still feel it. That tension in your chest, that unspoken knowing that you were meant for more. That was never weakness, that was memory. It is not too late to reclaim what was taken from you. But to do so, you must let go of the man they made you into. You must stop repeating the patterns that kept you asleep. You must stop living as a shadow when you were meant to cast your own. The process is brutal. It is meant to be. To rediscover yourself is to kill the false version that has taken your place. You cannot carry both. You cannot wake up while still clinging to the dream. You must choose. Who do you serve? The illusion of safety, or the truth of your own potential? The world will not remind you of what you are. It has no interest in your awakening. It thrives on your compliance, on your silence, on your willingness to stay lost. If you do nothing, nothing will change. But if you decide, if you dare to remember, then everything shifts. Because the world does not shape men. Men shape the world. And the moment you stop asking who you are and start deciding, the moment you embody what was always within you, the moment you step into what was yours from the beginning, That is the moment you stop existing and you start living. Look around and you'll see it everywhere, in everyone. People dragging themselves through life, barely awake, barely alive, existing, but not living, moving, but never going anywhere. They operate at a fraction of their capabilities, convinced that what they are is all they can be. They have no idea what lies dormant beneath their routines, their excuses, their numbed-out existence. And that is by design. Because a person who is fully awake, fully capable, fully aware of what they can do, that person is dangerous. That person does not hesitate, does not wait for permission, does not compromise. That person moves through the world like a storm. But most will never reach that level. Not because they can't, because they won't. The modern world has done something brilliant. It has convinced people that mediocrity is natural, that it is normal to feel tired all the time, that it is expected to be uninspired, to settle for less, to silence the voice in the back of their mind, telling them they were meant for more. People have been taught to be content with survival, to wake up, work, distract themselves, sleep, and repeat. And deep down, they know something is missing. That feeling of restlessness, that tension in the gut, that quiet panic at the thought of another decade spent wasting away. That's not a glitch in the system. That's the system failing. That's the real you, the capable you, trying to wake up, trying to claw its way back from the grave. But most push it down. They ignore it. Because waking up, that takes effort. That takes a kind of violence against the comfortable, predictable patterns that have kept them numb for years. Human potential is not some mystical force. It's not reserved for the gifted, the lucky, the chosen few. It is in everyone. But the difference between those who unlock it and those who don't? Choice. The most people never truly choose to be great. They think about it. They wish for it. They fantasize about it. But they never make the hard, brutal, merciless choice to tear themselves apart and rebuild from the ground up. They stay comfortable in their little pockets of struggle, suffering just enough to feel like they're trying, but never enough to change. And that is the greatest tragedy of all. You have seen glimpses of what you are capable of. A moment of clarity, a flash of power, an instant where you felt unstoppable. Maybe it was in a moment of crisis. Maybe it was when you were pushed to your limits. Maybe it was when you stopped thinking and just acted. And for a brief second, you felt it. The real you. But what did you do with that feeling? Did you chase it? Did you demand more from yourself? Or did you let it slip away, back into the shadows, back into the prison of habit and hesitation? The truth is, most people do not lack the ability. They lack the will. You were not designed to live at half power. Your body, your mind, your instincts, they were built for something more. But you've been trained to ignore them, to settle for weakness, to tolerate failure, to be grateful for mediocrity. And every time you tell yourself, this is just the way things are, you are lying. You are choosing to stay small. Because right now, in this very moment, there is something you could be doing to break free. And you know it. But knowing is not enough. Remembering is not enough. If you want to reclaim what was taken from you, you must be willing to suffer for it. Because unlocking your full potential, that is not a comfortable process. That is war. Against your old self, against your distractions, against the version of you that wants to stay asleep. It means confronting the fact that every excuse, every hesitation, every wasted day was your own doing. It means accepting that you are responsible for every ounce of strength you have not yet cultivated. And responsibility, that is terrifying, because if you admit that you could be more, that means you have wasted time. That means you have failed yourself. And most people would rather stay weak than face the weight of their own wasted potential. But those who do, those who embrace the discomfort, the responsibility, the brutal honesty of their own choices, those people become different. They move differently. They think differently. They wake up with purpose, not obligation. They do not drag themselves through life, drained and defeated. They are alive, and the world moves for them, because the world does not belong to the weak. It does not belong to the ones who hesitate. It belongs to the ones who dare to take it. The greatest lie ever told was that some people are just meant to be weak, meant to be slow, meant to be incapable. No one is meant for anything except what they choose. And if you are reading this now, feeling the itch in your bones, feeling the fire start to burn in your gut, that means there is still time. But time is not infinite. The longer you stay asleep, the harder it becomes to wake up. The more you wait, the more you will forget. And one day, if you are not careful, you will become just like them, moving through life at a fraction of your power, convincing yourself that it was never there at all. The world has turned distraction into an art form. It gives you everything to keep you looking in the wrong direction. Endless entertainment, constant noise, opinions you never asked for, expectations you never agreed to. It dangles shiny objects in front of you, pulling your attention from one triviality to the next. Look here, not there. Chase this, not that. Worry about things that do not matter. Debate things that do not change anything. Spend your time drowning in nonsense, because as long as you are lost in the maze, you won't remember that you were never meant to be here in the first place. But deep beneath all of it, something within you knows. Your subconscious is always watching, always pulling, always waiting for the moment you will wake up. It has never stopped whispering. Not once. Not when you ignored it. Not when you numbed yourself. Not when you convinced yourself that this was just the way things are. So I ask you again, do you remember who you are? Because if you do, act like it.